What's up, everyone? So this video, it's time to finally get those subframe connectors in here. So it is kind of going to be a crying shame to cut through these fresh patches, but you know, some torsional rigidity is needed with this drag car. So basically what you do is, you know, these subframe connectors go through the floor, and as I've said, they make it kind of into like a full frame car, because, you know, these cars basically, I know you guys have seen, has a front subframe that's kind of like a cantilevered beam out there, you know, free in space. So by tying them into the rear frame rails, it makes the car like so much stiffer. Like it changes it so much. I remember I put them in Z and it just made all the difference. So yeah, I'm gonna start cutting into this. Always feels kind of crazy to cut a hole in some fresh new floorboards, but it's for the better. A little bit of chassis stiffening, never hurt anybody. So you basically just follow the template and cut the floor, and I always like to cut it a little narrow and then grind it a little wider. So working on getting these in here. I'll catch up with you guys in a minute. Gotta be honest with you guys, I think I found my new favorite energy drink right here. Mountain Dew Kickstart has me feeling like this, brother. I really actually like those. They're actually super healthy. If you look at them, they're like 80 calories, not too much sugar, and got all sorts of good vitamins and minerals in there. So can't go wrong. The Kickstart clearly dialed me in, so I got this freaking thing fitting in here pretty much perfect. So definitely the instructions, they say that you need to trim the tubes, like the front of them, but that's not true. And what you need to do, I don't know if you guys are installing these, what you need to do is make sure to get enough material off the bottom so this is butted up against the rear floor here, because it needs to be welded in that area anyways. And also they say 15 1/8 of cutting. I did 15 1/4 to try and be, you know, generous, but I think it needed even less. So not a big deal for me. I can definitely cut this floor and bend it down and weld it, but you know, on the other side, I'll definitely cut it a little shallower. So I'm gonna weld this in. I'm not gonna time lapse. I haven't done any time lapses on this side, but now that I know what I'm doing, I'll time lapse the other side, and fingers crossed it comes out as good, but I think it will, and you guys will be able to see. So it fits pretty much perfect. So a little process flow is basically you cut out the floor that you need to cut out, and then they say you gotta cut it, but don't cut it. Then you weld the center or the end cap on, and then you tack it in there, and I'll obviously let the jack out, and then you put these pieces, which if you look underneath here, these go in between, you know, the subframe connector and the actual subframe. So you can see it needs to be moved over a little bit. It's hard to get it in the right spot. I mean, they give you a template and everything, but this will work, right? I'll be able to weld it. And then you weld those on, or tack them on, take them off, put them on the bench, weld them up, and then you weld them to the subframe and you weld it all into the floor. So I'm getting to it. That is one subframe connector out of the way, so it came out really nice. Got it all welded up around, you know, the floor on the top side, and I kind of tacked it in, you know, down here. I don't know why I did this. You know, I welded it on the bottom a little bit, but whatever, it's done. And welded to the cross member here, and then some good welds to the frame up there. So you can see this thing is really, it really beefs it up a lot, you know, and it connects it to the rear frame rail right here, and it makes the biggest difference. And yeah, now it's onto the other side, and I'll definitely detail out the other side a little bit in case you're watching and actually doing these on your car, because I don't know, the instructions that they give you aren't the best, but I've done it a few times, and now I kind of know what I'm doing. So you guys can see I got this driver's side done, and I'm gonna really detail out how to do it on this side. So in this is the actual subframe connector, and this connects the rear frame rail back here through the floor pan, and then you weld to the cross member, and that connects to the subframe right here, which adds a lot of rigidity, as I've mentioned, you know, before. And one thing they give you is this template, and the template is good other than, in my opinion, the 15 1/8 to the rear edge of the subframe. because you really need to cut it less far. So it would be, this distance would grow larger to like 15. I'm gonna do like probably 16 inches, because on this side I had to kind of bend it, or on the driver's side I had to bend it down. And they also say that you need to trim this piece to fit in there, but on that side I didn't, and I had to make sure to grind some of this area off so it butted up nicely against the rear floor back there. So these are the plates that go on the side and mount to the subframe, and this is the end cap. And I highly recommend, you know, they have this installation video here. I highly recommend, you know, just watching that. It's like 10 minutes for the subframe connector section, just to get your mind wrapped around what you're doing. And also these indents go towards the outside of the car. So I'll catch up with you guys once this template is on, and then I'll show you what I'm gonna be doing. So you can see this is where the template sits, you know, following all the dimensions from here. And then I also, you know, you follow it primarily, and then you put this guy up here, and you can see this area gets lined up with this back of the subframe, and then this area kind of gets lined up with the front, and then I kind of double check the dimensions, or, you know, where the template is sitting compared to where I want the subframe connector to be. And I can see, you know, I have moved it around quite a bit, and it looks pretty good. So I would definitely do that if you were gonna put these in, just to be sure this is in the right orientation and gonna connect the subframes as you like. With the beautiful piece of your floor cut out, obviously you're gonna try and slide this part into the back right here where you cut it, because that kind of, you know, it goes in here like this. And then you're definitely, if you're like me and you like to be a little conservative in your cut, you're definitely gonna have to trim it, like in a couple places. I'm gonna need to trim it right here, and then it should slide in there nice and tight. And then right, obviously you'll clean up your edges, or clean up your edges, and then probably cut up here a little more, and just cut it, you know, as much as you need to get it to fit. And I'll show you guys kind of the process as I go through it. So you can see I've ground it out enough to, you know, kind of fit it into the floor how it's meant to be. And one thing you'll run into is there's this little bulge right here. I think it's for a bolt underneath, and you'll need to cut basically a little slot in the floor so it can slide up in, because this surface should be against the back, as you can see on that side. So you definitely want to make a little cut here. And also on this side, I'll have to kind of, you know, I made plug weld for this floor pan that I put in, but I'll have to, you know, either grind the actual subframe connector, or grind this spot weld, and then that'll allow me to push it forward as well. So there's definitely going to be some fitment issues in that area, and I think that's kind of inevitable. So you can see by cutting it shorter than or longer than they recommended from the subframe back to where you cut, you know, this way on the floor, it's actually pretty close. So I did 15.5, or I think it's 15.75. I don't know. I just leave it, you know, at least maybe half an inch longer than what they recommend. And then that's going to allow me just to trim, you know, in this area where the tape goes this way, and be able to trim it right up tight. And you're going to want to trim the floor until it butts up against this cross member, because you're going to weld to that cross member, as you can see on this side. So I'm going to do that, and then yeah, we're making headway. So got this all in here, got it held up with a jack, and it's buttered up against here, and I made some marks to where I'll need to get it to bare metal to weld to. So they give you these, which go, you know, mount to the subframe connector and connect it to the subframe, and they definitely need some modification in this joint here. So what I've been doing is kind of, grinding where I need to. So there's a nice even, gap there to where I'll be welding. And it seems like the subframe connector itself, the tubing is a little narrow. So, I tack it in here. You're going to want to tack it in while it's in the car to the subframe connector and not to the subframe, and then take it off and fully weld it, on the bench in a vise or whatnot. So, I'm going to grind these and get them to shape and then tack them on there and take this out and weld it. So given that you want to get it to this cross member, I think this is designed not to mount to this cross member maybe or something, because it doesn't seem like when these are, or when it's up against the cross member, these are really in the right place. So you definitely kind of have to make a compromise there, but I got both of them on here. And I'm going to take this out and weld it, and then, or weld it on the bench, these fully, and then I'll clean up these areas around the floor and the rear frame rail, and then I'll start welding it in permanently back there. So I'll catch up with you guys in a few minutes. So you won't be able to paint this area, so I recommend using like some weld through primer where you're not, or primer in general, just something that's kind of high heat where you're going to be welding, and also doing it in this area that is going to be underneath, or what would it be, over top the subframe connector, because you're going to have a block by this thing. But I got this all ready. I got all the paint off and got it all prepped in the areas that it needs to be. So I'm going to tack this thing in there, and then we'll be on our way. Got this bad boy pretty much welded in. So one thing I will say, you can see I got it welded up here, the cross member. And one thing I will say is in these areas, like right here, I don't know, I think this is going to be for everyone. There's quite a big gap right here, which you can't really fill with welding. And what I did on the other side is I kind of built these little, pieces at an 1/8 inch steel just to fill the gap and then weld it. I don't know, I like to be thorough. And this is coming right from the frame rail, so, might as well get it done right. And then there's going to be another one on this side. You can see you'll need kind of like the same type of thing in there. Maybe this one will be a little shorter. And, that'll give you basically a fully welded subframe connector. So I'm going to weld these in, and then I'll be pretty much done. So, these are pretty straightforward to install for the most part. And then, what I'm going to do is, like these other patches, is seam seal around these and then spray it with some like etching primer, and then just spray paint them on the top side and bottom side, and then we should be good to go. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. That's pretty much all I got for this one. Subframe connectors are a big milestone, because then I can, go from the cage down to them, and then I'm, check this off the list, and then I can move on to the roll cage, and that'll be in the next video. So thanks for watching, and I will see you guys later. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I've been forgetting to say it, but you guys should if you're interested. Thanks. Hey, thanks for stopping into the Bluebird Enterprises YouTube channel. If you like what you saw, give me a big thumbs up, and hopefully you're leaving with a bigger smile than you came in with.